to all of you. I formally welcome you to this public lecture on Islam in Contemporary World by our esteemed guest, Professor Tariq Ramadan. I'm very sorry about this. We have a wonderful audience. Thank you so much for waiting and being patient. I, Jawaharlal, research scholar at Center of West Asian Studies. I will be your host for this evening. This lecture is organized by Peace and Justice Forum. The main objective of the forum is to raise and highlight the issues of human rights, minority problems, and also to facilitate academic discourses on peace and justice. In past, the forum has academically organized talks on remembering Palestine Day, Rohingya refugee crisis, and Syrian crisis also. Moving on to our guest. It is our special privilege and pleasure to welcome Professor Ramadan here this evening. Dr. Ramadan is a professor of contemporary Islamic studies at the Oxford University, Oriental Institute, St. Antony's College. Also, he teaches at Oxford Faculty of Theology. He is a visiting professor at the Faculty of Islamic Studies, Qatar, and the University of Malaysia, Perlis. Senior Research Fellow at the Shisha University, Kyoto, Japan, and also Director of Research Center of Islamic Legislation and Ethics, Doha. He has also held important positions in universities across the world. Professor Ramadan has contributed immensely in Islamic studies and has written more than 11 books covering diverse areas from Western Muslims and future of Islam to radical reforms, Islamic ethics and liberation, which allows a new way to read the scriptures in contemporary times. On his innovation ideas on bringing Islamic medical ethics and modern sciences together, in 2004, the Time noted him in the list of most innovative people of 21st century. He has dealt with questions of identity and citizenship in non-majority Muslim countries, especially Europe. In his brilliant work, To Be a European Muslim, he engages with the problems faced by European Muslims in their social, political, cultural, legal life as a practicing Muslim, and while living together in a multi-faith, pluralistic European nation-states. From Islamic law and jurisprudence to citizenship and rights, and developing a specific model of democracy based on principle and model, he specializes in diverse areas. His latest work came out in 2017, titled as Introduction to Islam, and a very short introduction to Islamic ethics is due soon. Professor Ramadan is not only an excellent writer, but he is also a prolific orator. I would urge you all to listen to his many debates and lectures available on YouTube. I would also like to welcome Professor Ramadan's wife, Mrs. Iman Ramadan, and also his daughter. It's a great pleasure to have you all with us. Now, let me answer. Yeah.
I'm very sorry for arriving so late. We, as you know, were in Agra, and it was very foggy, and it took 4 hours, more than 4 hours just to get there. So everything was delayed. And thank you so much for Peace and Justice as an organization, Ida and Amen and all the staff of the organizers for organizing this, and for you to come back almost 4 hours later. So thank you. It means a lot, and it shows how much you are committed to ideas and critical thinking. The topic today that I was given has to do with Islam and contemporary world, and special reference to 3 concepts and notions. The first one is terrorism, radicalism or radicalization, and Islamophobia. So let me start with 3 points as an introduction. And as you know, maybe some of you are following on Facebook, or on Twitter, on YouTube, some of my work. Some, and I know much less, are reading books. So if you read books or if you follow, you know that I'm not here to entertain you for 1 hour. I'm here and you will see that I'm going to challenge you as students, as human beings, as Indian citizens, about what is also our responsibility. Because it's easy to sit down and to blame the world. It's much more important to stand up and to change the world. So I think that you have to avoid the mobile phone and ringing and clapping as well. All my talk, no clap, please. So what we start with, the first point is, as we all know, when it comes to Islam today, mainly wherever you go, in the West, or in India, or in African countries, or wherever you go, even in Muslim majority countries, by the way, Islam has a negative image. The negative image is, the reason for that is it's connected to many, many realities that we keep on having and always associated with what? Mainly violence. When you speak about Islam, you speak about violence, you speak about terrorism, you speak about radicalization, again, the word that you use, and you have two other concepts that are important. The great majority of the Muslim majority countries have to do with dictatorship. It's no freedom, no democracy, the great majority of the Muslim majority country. And also something that is important that you need also to get when it comes to the West is that very often Islam and Muslims are associated with migration. The great majority of the migrants coming to Europe or coming to the States today are Muslims. In Canada it's the case, in North American countries. In the States now it's the reality of many Muslims arriving, even though it's not the most important community, because you have people coming from Mexico, coming from Southern America, but in Europe, throughout the countries, the main reality when it comes to migration has to do with Islam. So it has to do with terrorism, it has to do with violence, it has to do with radicalization, it has to do with the Middle East and the so-called peace process, which is not a peace process, and there is no process at all, by the way, and what is also the reality of migration and dictatorship. So it's a negative perception. And we have to deal with this. If you want to change the world, if you want to change the perception, you have to take into account the psychological factor when it comes to this. And the psychological factor is to know what you are dealing with. If you speak about Islam in the contemporary world, you cannot deny the fact that the perception is negative. Even among Muslims, when you speak about with Muslims about the reality of the Islamic communities around the world, they don't have a positive perception. Very often a negative perception of themselves. Even if I come here talking to Indians, the way you look at your community is, oh, we are divided, we are not doing the job, we are not providing anything, it's very difficult, they don't like us, and so forth, and so on and so forth. So this is one thing. The second point that I wanted to address here is to ask, what are the reasons, what are the causes, why this is happening, mainly for two important reasons. The first is the political discourse coming from politicians now, and the media coverage. We cannot deny the fact that the media coverage are playing a very important role in the negativity related to Islam today. But the political discourse, it's also important. Why? Because throughout the world, even in India, by the way, there is something that you have to understand. Yesterday we were talking much more about ideologies, so we are talking about neoliberal or capitalism versus Marxists. It's very rare that today you still have Marxists playing an important role, even though I think that we should reconsider the way we are dealing with Marxist ideas in the way they were criticizing the society and the economic order. So you might think that it's outdated as an ideology, but many things that were said before as to the critique of the capitalist system are still very relevant, even though now all the people are only speaking about the free market, the neoliberal system, even, by the way, the great majority of the Islamists around the world. political Islam is not providing some of the means with which we are dealing in the capitalist system. Having said that, the most important feature when ideologies are dying down and that it's no longer the reality that we are facing, what we see is the normalization of the populist discourse. And the populist discourse is no longer rational, reasonable ideology built on principles and vision. It's mainly four features that you see. And you have them here in India. Whereas the running party in India, as much as you have them in the West. Normalization of the populist discourse. So what was yesterday said by far-right parties is now normalized within the political parties across the political spectrum. What are the four features of populism? The first one is the binary vision of the world. Is us versus them. So they create the other. Us, Indian people, we have a problem with them, Muslims, because these Muslims are not really part of our society. So they create the other within the society. It's exactly what we are experiencing in the West. We have the European passports, but we are not Europeans in their mind. So they ask the Muslims, you have to integrate, but their mind did not integrate us. So the problem is in their mind, not in our reality. And it's the same with some of the politicians within this country. The fact that you are Indian Muslim, the fact that you are Muslim and Indian is questioning your true belonging to what is truly Indian and the perception they have of India. So us versus them, the binary vision, polarization within the society. You have this in the political discourse. When you have no longer an ideology to solve the problems and the social problems and to speak about justice, you speak about identity. So you are shifting the discussion from talking about social problems and politics to let us talk about identity. Who are you? I don't care who I am. What are your solutions to change the society? That's my question. So the first one is this. The second feature of this populist discourse is always very emotional. It's what I call emotional politics. You don't deal with ideas, we deal with emotions. And emotion means the more you spread fear about the people around you, the better you are going to gather them around you. So I'm not going to attract you through my solutions, I'm going to attract you through your fear. So be careful, these people are dangerous. Be careful, Muslims are dangerous. Be careful, you are potentially a terrorist. So you are potentially a threat to our society. This is everywhere. So this is the populist discourse, is emotional politics based on fear. You spread fear because you don't have ideas. You don't have a political vision, a political ideology. This is the second. The third one is very simplistic answers to very complex questions. So for example, if we have unemployment, if we have inflation, if we have an economic crisis, it's simple, it's them. It's because of them. They are creating the problem. What was said by the far party yesterday, oh, you know what, we have unemployment because the foreigners are taking our jobs. This is exactly what they said now. My problem is you. It's not that I don't have a problem to solve social justice, equality, against racism. I'm transforming very complex questions into simplistic answers. You are the problem. The other is the problem. So you create the other and it becomes at the end the source of everything. Simplistic answers to complex political, economic, cultural questions. And the last one, which is also very important in this, that we are sharing with many, is populism is always nurturing a sense of victimhood. Victimhood. From emotional reactions, say, we are the victims of them. So, and the first who was nurturing this, you remember just after 2001, George W. Bush? When you know what is the American policy around the world saying, we are the victims of these people. They don't like democracy, they don't like our values, so we are the victims. So the populist discourse is always making us the victim of them. Emotional politics, binary vision, simplistic answers to complex questions, and victimhood. And this is everywhere. When you deal with this, you have to ask, are you going to fall into the trap? Because Muslims, many Muslims around the world are exactly reacting emotionally and nurturing a sense of victimhood. They don't like Islam. They don't like us. And they, who is this they that you are talking about? Us versus them. We do exactly the same. So now we have to liberate ourselves from this mindset, which is a big problem in the way we have to deal with politics today. What could be our response? And when I'm saying our response, I'm talking not only to Indian Muslims or Muslims. I'm talking to human beings. I'm talking to citizens. I'm talking to people of dignity and principles. Not only you as Muslims, or us versus them again. Even though everything that I'm going to say today is not against the Islamic principles. But I do not reduce my belonging to my principles, to my belonging to a very narrow community. I will never make my brotherhood in faith against my brotherhood in humanity. You get the point? That's essential. الأخوة الإنسانية, the human brotherhood, it's not against my religious or my spiritual brotherhood or sisterhood. One is not against the other. One is giving strength to the other, not oppose the other. So the point here, for me, it's essential. Our response should be with 4 features. First one, it should be a clear answer. A clear answer means intellectually clear, not emotionally clear. By the way, it's very difficult to have a clear emotional idea. The only fact that it's an emotional idea, it's not clear. Are you thinking with your body or are you thinking with your mind? You should think with both. But the preference here is to have a clear response. The second is a principle answer. And this is our contribution to the debate. It's not to accept this binary vision, a principle. We rely on principle. If I'm saying, for example, I am not going to be on the side of the Muslims, whatever they do. If you are my brother in Islam, I'm going to support you if you are right. I'm going to stand against you if you are wrong. My brotherhood is based on principles. I support you when you are right. I face you if you are wrong. If I'm saying this, I'm saying at the same time, wherever I am, even in this country, I will be on the side of the oppressed. So if in this country as an Indian Muslim, I will always be on the side of the Arya, or the Dalit, or the people who are in the caste system discriminated, I'm saying even to the Muslims who are supporting this system, you will find me. I'm not going to support you. If you, as a Muslim, are able to support a system that is treating people in an inhuman way, while the Quran is telling us, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, every single human being has the same dignity, man and woman, before God. If you, as an Indian Muslim, you are supporting the system of caste, you will fight me against it. And I'm even going to support the black. It's a special fatwa that I know that you are very emotional, so I keep on repeating. Yes, I know that. Indian people are emotional, like we are. I'm always saying, for those of you who are following on YouTube, I repeat something: listen to lecture the way you read books. If you read a book and you like the idea and you don't clap, you just write it down, think about it, do the same. It would be completely contradictory to come to a lecture telling you don't be emotional and you keep on clapping every time you like it. It's not a political meeting here. So the point for me is to be clear on this principle. It also has to be balanced. And this is the notion of wisdom. as the Prophet ﷺ said, gave everything be principle, be just, be bad. And the last, which is also something that I think that you have to ask yourself. It's very easy to support my ideas when you are in this group. The question is when you go out and you have to face sometimes something which is no longer in the contemporary political discourse something that we like, is the price to have to pay to defend your ideas. How do we call this? We call it courage, to be courageous. And why the Prophet ﷺ for the Muslims was the example? Because he was the most courageous of everyone. He was the first to go. He was not telling, go and I will wait for you to come back. This was not the way. He was the first to go. So we need to have students, thinkers, women, men, courageous, balanced, principled, and clear. That's the 4 features that we are expecting in the world today when it comes to the discussion. Having said that now, let me... It's not mine. Somebody is calling you. Now, let me come to the 3 notions that we had and go quite quickly in discussing them. What do we have to do first is to avoid 2 things that are problematic in the world today. As I said, in the world today, the image of Islam is quite negative. What do we have to avoid? The first thing that we have to avoid when it comes, for example, to terrorism or violence, or Muslims killing people or innocent people in Muslim majority countries or in the West or here in India. What we have to avoid is what I call the state of denial. And the state of denial is some Muslims coming every time something is happening by saying, you know what, they are not Muslims, it has nothing to do with Islam. I'm sorry. Who are you to tell about them that they are not Muslim? If somebody is saying, I am a Muslim, La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah, if somebody is saying this, you have no right to put him or her outside Islam. You can't do that. If they think that you are not Muslims, like for example, I am in the list of yes, I am in this list of people who are more dangerous for Islam than the non-Muslims themselves. This is what they are saying. If they put me outside Islam, I will never put them outside Islam. This takfiri position is wrong. So the stage of denial will be, these are not Muslims, they are not Muslims, and it has nothing to do with Islam. I'm sorry, they are Muslims. And it has to do with Islam. Why? Because I met, as somebody, or someone, or some of you have met before, some Muslims who have a reading of the scriptural sources of the Quran, which is, in fact, very dangerous, very narrow-minded, very, very problematic. I met some of them. I met some of them telling me, you are not a Muslim. I'm going, if you are very dangerous. So I even met somebody, I met him, I left the country, it was in Mauritius, and just after I left he said, Tariq Ramadan, kafir murtad. Kafir murtad meaning I can kill him. No, it's not a joke, you are smiling. Thank you. Kafir murtad. That's a big thing. So the point here is that we have to acknowledge the fact that some Muslims are behaving in a way which is not acceptable, and we have to stand against them by doing 2 things. First, not to say that they are not Muslims, and second, to challenge them with Islamic argument about their Islamic reading. We have to do this. This is the state of denial, but just denying that it has... Does it mean that, having said that, does it mean that we don't know that some could be instrumentalized, that there are intelligence services playing with some Muslims? Of course we know that. We are not naive. But having said that, cannot be a justification not to acknowledge the fact that some within Islam are doing things that are against our principles, and we have to challenge them. As Muslims, this is our duty. So this is one thing. The other thing that we have to avoid is this position coming to every time you are criticized as Muslims, you keep on apologizing. I'm sorry, not on my name, it's not us. And condemning again. So that's, and condemning only the results. So we have some Muslim leaders every time there is something happening around the world, they come and say, we condemn. Okay, thank you. What else? What else are you adding to the discussion? When you speak about the consequences, don't you have the duty to speak about the reasons why this is happening without justifying? Nothing can justify the killing of innocent people. Nothing. I'm not going to justify. But tell me, am I not going to say, I'm not justifying, but I want to understand? So to understand is not to justify. To understand is that why this is happening. Why some people end up being violent. They were not born violent. Are they social realities? Are they dictatorships? Are they situations where they are pushed or that we can end up doing this? Of course they are. So I think that we have to avoid just condemning the consequences and not challenging or questioning the reasons why. By saying something, which is to understand does not mean that I'm justifying. I try to understand what is happening. So this is also something that is important. And to condemn the facts without questioning the narrative behind. Who is playing with this? How, for example, say, okay, I'm condemning 2001. Am I going, in the name of my condemnation of 2001 in the United States of America, to accept the fact that the Americans went to Afghanistan and killed so many innocent people? Am I going to do that? Am I going to be quiet when you kill innocent people and you're asking me to condemn when you are killed? What is this? So we have some Muslim leaders, they just want to be accepted. I'm a nice, kind Muslim. I condemn whatever you want. So these are two things that we don't accept. And I think we have to avoid this. This is the starting point of our discussion. And you can understand here, balanced, principled, clear, and courageous. This is the starting point of our discussion. So when it comes to where we have to stand here. Now, when it comes to, okay, I came here and I had a title saying, okay, let us talk about terrorism, let us talk about radicalism or radicalization and Islamophobia. So, okay, if we want to speak, and if you are students or researchers or teachers, there is something that should be clear from the very beginning. If I want to talk about the topic, I have to be clear with the definition. Clear means what are my definitions? When it comes to, for example, terrorism, okay, we speak about terrorism. If by terrorism, you know that there is no normative, international, accepted definition of terrorism today. And you know why? Because some, they wouldn't like a clear definition. So I'm saying, okay, I'm providing you with a definition. Terrorism means if you are targeting innocent people who have nothing to do with a state of war or are outside the conflict, if you are targeting innocent people and men and women are civilians, this is terrorism. Now, you can understand that straight away. Okay, I'm going to condemn those people who are killing innocent people. And by the way, I'm not going to do this only when it happens in Paris or in New York or in Washington. I have to do it everywhere when it happens in Damascus, in Baghdad, in Yemen, in Myanmar, everywhere. We have to condemn all types of terrorism when the civilians are targeted. Do you agree with this? But that's not enough. When, for example, you have a state bombarding civilians in Gaza and killing 80% of the people who are killed are civilians, how do you call this? Self-defense? The legitimate right to protect yourself, or state terrorism? So when it comes to terrorism, we have to discuss all types of terrorism. When a state decides to target civilians knowingly, this is state terrorism, period. And we have to stand up with this. So our take on one should be the take on everything. And we have to be courageous enough to say this in a way which is based on the way we have to deal with this and the state terrorism, for example, when it comes that we know. There is a strategy in Burma, in Myanmar, just to target civilians. And they are killed. And there is a genocide. How do you call this? State terrorism. So the point for us is,
and the state terrorists, for example, when it comes that we know, there is a strategy in Burma, Myanmar, that to target civilians, and they are killed, and there is a genocide. How do you call this? State terrorism. So the point for us is, once again, principled, clear, and courageous, because we have to denounce the narrative. You want to speak about terrorism only when people are killed in New York, or in Paris, or in Spain, but you are not ready to speak about terrorism when the people that you consider the other are targeted. And it's legitimate for a state to protect itself by killing more than 2,000 civilians, and the world is silent. So that's something which has to do with terrorism. Now, when it comes to radicalization and radicalism, so we have this everywhere now. We say, okay, radicalization. Listen to the words and be careful, because when we started discussing this was in the 90s, and then I was involved in the task force that was set by Tony Blair. And I said, okay, I'm ready to be part of your task force with one condition. I should be able to speak for radicals. And from the very beginning, I said, I don't agree with your terminology. And we were many saying, no, this terminology of radicalization is wrong. What does it mean, radicalization? It means that yesterday you were a believer, and then step by step you have been radicalized by having new interpretation. In fact, all the statistics are showing that between 80 to 90%, depending where, of the people who are involved in radical or violent extremism are people who are not practicing Islam more than 6 months. So the reality is that who are these people who, within 6 months, and some of them 2 weeks, and some of them 1 night. Have you heard about the situation in Nice? The guy who took the bus and killed innocent people? You know how they called him, or what they called us? Because in the afternoon, the day before, even his father said, I had no idea that he was involved in religious things. So they called it a very quick radicalization. 1 night. And then you understand that it's something which is a very quick switch from one situation to another. It has nothing to do with radicalization. It could be many things. A sense of frustration, instrumentalization, pushed by people. We know how it works. For example, the FBI now, we know that they are infiltrating people, pushing people to do things. And some of them, really, because they are experiencing frustration, could be very quick. So the notion of radicalization is problematic, and radicalism is problematic. What we can speak about is, yes, there are violent extremists. Extremists in the way they read the Quran, and violent in the way they implement. They kill innocent people. But radicalization is not what you are talking about. And the great majority of the people who are killing innocent people, or what happened, for example, in the States, we were told 2 weeks before taking the aircraft and killing people, they were in a party, dancing, drinking alcohol. Very quick radicalization. Very quick radicalization. So you ask yourself, who are these people? So we have here, once again, to be clear on the terminology that we are using. Last thing, that it's also important, we speak about Islamophobia. And we have to be clear. Islamophobia is a new type of racism. But we have to differentiate. We, the great majority of you, are Muslims here, but not only, but we have to be clear on one thing. When somebody is coming to you and telling you, you know what, I don't like your religion. I don't like your principle. I don't like that you are praying 5 times a day. I don't like the way you treat women. I don't like the way the Quran is speaking about women. Is he or she an Islamophobe? No. That's the reality of critical discussion. You don't like, okay, I might not like what you think, let us talk about it. This is a critical discussion that we need to get. In pluralistic society, if somebody is challenging you with your principle. For example, the mayor of Geneva, the previous mayor of Geneva, came once to me and said, you know what, Tariq Ramadan, I like what you are doing with your students, but I must tell you something. Then you stop the phones, it could be just to put them on silent. Because I'm okay, but it seems that it's disturbing the audience. What did I say? Okay, so he told me, the mayor of Geneva, he told me, you know what, when I see a woman with the headscarf in the street, I don't like it. I don't like it. For me, there is a problem. I think it's discriminatory towards women. The fact that he's telling me this in a critical discussion doesn't mean that he's an Islamophobe. He's just expressing a sentiment, something that we have to deal with. Of course, if he was to go, and he was to go, to discriminatory law, this is the consequence of the sentiment could be an Islamophobic take on the political ground. But the discussion that we need to have with our fellow citizens on our principles, on what we believe, the way we believe, that's fine, this is a critical discussion. Not everyone who is questioning your faith is an Islamophobe. What is Islamophobia? Islamophobia is a new type of racism, is if I target you and I discriminate you because of the only fact that you are a Muslim and I reject you because of the only fact that you are Muslim, as we did with the black people, as we are doing with the black people or the Jews, this is Islamophobia. So discrimination on the exclusive basis that you are a Muslim, this is why we are talking. So we should not be emotional every time somebody is coming with one question. I don't like to say, oh yes, Islamophobia. No. Natural question. Of course, I have to take this. This is part of life. And this was done with the Prophet. So it didn't start with him, Islamophobe everywhere. So the Meccan society was not Islamophobe, even though they were rejecting something which was challenging their power. So they had questions, and we need to get this. And let me tell you something. All these questions that you have coming from your fellow citizens that are questioning you about the reality of your faith, these are very useful questions for you. Pluralistic societies are helping you to be better Muslim by the questions you get from the people. So you better listen to them, instead of rejecting everything as Islamophobic. It's not. So we have to differentiate between what is Islamophobia and what is not. Having said that, now with the terminology, what is important with all this, when it comes to terrorism or radicalization or Islamophobia, is to free ourselves from this attitude which is to be on the defensive, reactive. So the people are talking about terrorists, we always defend ourselves or react to what is said. And I think that this is very problematic, that the great majority of the Muslims now, within academia, within the intellectual arena, or in politics, very often they are on the defensive, reactive to the dominant narrative. And we have to avoid that. And to be quite clear on what I said, the clear discourse, clarity, or courage that I was talking about, it's also translated into an assertive discourse. An assertive discourse, to be assertive in what and who we are and what we want, dealing, as I was saying, not with the facts only, but with the reason. An assertive discourse by saying, okay, I'm ready to condemn this, and I'm going to condemn this, or that. But what I add to the discussion, the reasons, the narrative, the whole understanding of what is at stake when it comes to the discussion. So that's also important, ready to condemn the facts, but who do we have to be in our society? You know, very often when you are called or asked to define Islam, you say Islam is submission. Any one of you who knows Arabic in this room knows that Islam in Arabic doesn't mean submission in English.
Peace, peace, peace.
It's even deeper than that. It's not only peace. Of course, in Islam there is salam. But Islam is this action of entering in God's peace that you have in the verse of the Quran, enter into God's peace. Entering into God's peace means you, as human beings, wherever you are, with your fellow citizens, with the Muslims and the people of other faiths, with the Hindus, with the Buddhists, with the Christians, with whoever is a human being around you. You have to be agents of peace. You have to promote peace and to call for peace. But not in the way we are talking about the peace process in Palestine. Not with the way we are talking about peace now, it's the 60s peace and love. Peace and love is fine. But when we are agents of peace, what we need to get is we want peace and its conditions. We are agents promoting the conditions for peace, not only calling for peace. So I keep on repeating this. Islam is not a religion of peace. That's not true. Islam is a religion calling for peace, which is completely different. Calling for peace means stand up against the despots, the dictators, the corrupt people. You have to stand up. It's not a religion of peace. Do whatever you want, peace and love. No. You are right, peace. You are corrupt, fight. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to stand up because this is exactly what the Prophet told me to do. When you see من رأى منكم منكرا فيغيره بيده أو بلسانه أو بقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان. So when you see something wrong, you have to change it. You have to change it with your hand. So it means go and change. If you cannot do it with your hand and change it, denounce it. If you cannot denounce it, at least your heart should not be at peace because you don't like it. And if you don't like it, this is the weakest level of your faith. So agents of peace should be courageous, should be aware of all the conditions that are needed to get this peace. Calling for peace means knowing the conditions. And this is where comes our discussion in this, with this topic today, which is, okay, I want to be an agent of peace in my society, wherever I am. Wherever I am, if I am a Muslim in India, if I am a human being with my fellow Indian citizens, wherever I am, let us come together and be agents of peace, meaning what are the conditions helping this society to get peace? How am I going to do with this? How am I going to do that? The first is, when it comes today with violent extremism and terrorism, and this is the first. Nothing, as I said, can justify the killing of innocent people. But if I'm an agent of peace, I'm not going to sit down and to condemn those who are killing. I'm going to take a step back and say, okay, let us think about why this is happening. Why is it happening today? So what we have to do is, in the great majority of the Muslim majority countries, some of the people, some of the young generations, are facing dictators. No freedom, no dignity, no justice. If you want to act against terrorism, you have to act against the reasons of terrorism. And the reasons is, let us be clear about. No democracy and no freedom in the great majority of the Muslim majority countries are in the southern countries. So we should be clear on the fact that we are going to be critical. I'm going to be critical towards all the Gulf states. All the Gulf states. Not only there is no freedom, but they treat Indians, Filipinos, or Nepalese people coming from this region, and they treat them like animals. They treat them as slaves. So there is no freedom. In the great majority of the Middle East, look in my country of origin, Egypt, in less than 20 minutes, he is able to sentence to death 1,200 people, and the world is silent. You want to act against terrorists? Stop supporting the dictator. Stop supporting these people. And we, as citizens, if you are Muslims in this room, or if you are a human being, you have to promote the political discourse saying, I'm against violence, but I'm against the reasons of violence. And when there is no freedom, when there is frustration, when there is economic domination, when there is cultural domination, when there is no hope for the people, of course you are going to get terrorism and violence. So my take should be the reason. You want to act against terrorism?
stop supporting the dictators. Stop supporting these people. And we as citizens, if you are Muslims in this room, or if you are a human being, you have to promote the political discourse saying, I'm against violence, but I'm against the reasons of violence. And when there is no freedom, when there is frustration, when there is economic domination, when there is cultural domination, when there is no hope for the people, of course you are going to get terrorism and violence. So my take should be the reason. I'm an agent of peace, and if you want peace, promote justice. No justice, no peace. No justice is as simple as this. So if you treat people in an undignified way, you're not going to get that peace. And if you do this there, they are going to come and to tell you, there is some logic. I don't agree with what Ayman al-Zawahiri was saying by killing innocent people. But there is a logic in what he's saying. We killed Sadat, thinking that by removing him, we're going to get democracy. You brought worse than him, Mubarak. So we thought about the solution. If we kill him and you change, maybe we have to go to kill you there, because this is the source of our problem. So the fact that he's going to kill innocent people is wrong, but the logic that he's saying, who is supporting these dictators, is something that we have to listen to by saying, we are against killing innocent people, but we are not going to let the West lecture us about freedom supporting the dictators. So that's also something which is no rights, no dignity. And when it comes to the West, why is it that we have some young people going now to Syria and to Iraq, or even they went to Boston? There are reasons for that, and there are three reasons. The first, which is the most important one, is the frustration that they have within the society. You keep on telling them you are not one of us. You keep on saying to the young British Muslims, or to the young French Muslims, or the young German Muslims, you are not one of us. So when they see that people are killed, they say, okay, let's go there, because I'm going to be more useful there than to be useless here. That's the reality. So frustration, even when you have people saying, I got my PhD, I did all these studies, and at the end, the only thing that I get is structural racism. You are not going to get the job. Why? Because you are not one of us. So you are nurturing frustration. One. Second is instrumentalization. We know now that they are playing very well on internet by instrumentalizing people. So, for example, I don't know if you heard about this, but the people who are promoting all these videos, are making heroes. It's Hollywood in Iraq, Hollywood in Syria, are experts to play with the minds of the young people. And this is also one of the reasons. So we also have to say, who is giving them the money to do this? Where does it come from? But this is the second reason. And the third one, which is not to be underestimated, is also intelligence. Intelligence. We have cases, and I saw some of the testimonies that some people saying, I was in touch with somebody, even one of those who were in France was in touch with the French intelligence. One wrote a full page in an Italian newspaper saying, this guy was in touch with the French intelligence, sending him to Iraq and sending him to Pakistan. Why? Just to help them to infiltrate or to use him. So, three reasons. Yes, frustration is there. Second, we have the reality of instrumentalization and indoctrination. And the third one is also intelligence playing with this and playing with some young, disenfranchised youth in the society. So, that's something which is important when it comes to radicalization. Now, the third concept. So, we talked about terrorism, the reason, we talked about radicalization. Now we can talk about Islamophobia. What is the reason for this new type of racism? And it happens also for you here in India. We are talking about Islam everywhere, and the perception is negative. Why? And here we have two reasons that are very important. The first reason, and it's very simple, but it has an impact, in the time where emotional politics is playing everywhere. Wherever you go, even in your society, And this happened also in the United States of America, in the West, in African countries. There is this new visibility of Muslims. Even you, in your society, there is, we have been millions, you have been millions of Muslims, but there are more and more Muslims practicing and being visible in the society. For example, in the West, this new Islamophobia is coming out of this new visibility. More headscarf, more foreigners, more visible signs. So, for example, in my country, Switzerland, we have only 4 minarets. Only 4. And they were able to change the constitution by saying, we don't want minarets. I said, okay, look, I'm a Swiss citizen. The mosque is the place where we worship. What is the problem with minarets? The answer was, minarets are visible, and they are the visible side of you trying to colonize us. I'm not joking. You trying to colonize. So it's not part of our neutral public sphere. The neutral public sphere is churches and synagogues. Mosques, no. So the new visibility of Muslims who were parked and segregated in suburbs or in inner cities now are getting out and they are more visible. You are exactly the same. Now you are more and more within universities, you are becoming journalists, you are doctors, you are visible. Visibility is a threat. It means, who are these people? They were invisible. Their parents yesterday were invisible. And now the young generation, assertive, present, and visible. We are not scared. We are Indian. We are Muslim. We are Europeans. We are Muslims. We are American. We are Muslims. And this new visibility is now used by the populace by saying, them are colonizing us, and we are the victims of these people, and if we don't have job, it's because of them. You get it. This is the populist discourse that you have, and this is why, even in India, the far-right, fascist, Hindu party is gaining ground based on threat, fear, and nurturing the sense of otherness that it's important. But it's not only this. We also have to get this right. That, and especially it's maybe less the case here, even though it's going to come very soon to you. That if you have a sense of justice, and you say, look, we as Indian Muslims, or we as Western Muslims, we are here and we want to protect the rights of the Muslims around the world because they are stigmatized. The negative image is as if when you are a Muslim and you die, this has less value than when you are Western and you are killed. So the killing of the Western people has not the same value as the killing of Muslims today. And even here, sometimes the perception is it's not the same value. The problem for us is this, is that the new visibility in our society, and especially in the United States of America, or in Europe, and this is also the understanding of why Islamophobia is working, is that you can change the public opinion with your presence. By being politically and socially active, by bringing new thoughts and a new vision, you change the perception of your fellow citizens. This is exactly what is happening. You know, in 67, 73% of the Europeans were supporting Israel. 73% in 67. Today, we have 65% of the Europeans supporting the Palestinians. Why? Because you have new citizens. We are doing our job. We are coming from the south and we are changing the public opinion. So you have some lobbies, they don't like this. You know APAC, the way they are working in the States. You know how much they are working in Europe. You remember that Prodi, the European commissioner, was, the question that was asked to the Europeans, which is the most dangerous country for peace in the world? The answers coming from the Europeans was Israel. Prodi, the European commissioner said, oh, the question was wrongly put, meaning that the leadership is under control, and the society is moving. And if you are able, why am I so dangerous? Even more dangerous in the perception that the terrorists are the violent. You know why? Because I'm saying, I'm a citizen, I'm at home. And you know how we are going to change things? Through intelligence, commitment, and citizenship. We are going to change because we are principled people, and we want ethics, and we want to speak about humanity, and we want to speak about the Arabs and the Muslims who are killed, and it's as if it's nothing. So the point here, which is important, is our understanding that in our society, our role is very important. Be careful. You may be misled by the fact that the media, the powerful media, are changing and nurturing this populism and all this, what I said at the beginning. Never underestimate your role of changing the opinion of the people around you. Never underestimate this. What is happening, I call it a silent revolution. The presence of the Western Muslims in 50 years changed the public opinion on many things. Even though the media are pushing and pushing, we are changing. Even after 2001, the people who are interested more and more about what is this religion, who are these people, things are moving. So we have to be wise, patient, and committed. And not to get this illusion, this optic illusion that the media are controlling everything. They can control, but we can change. We have the power of the presence, the power even of the number if we do what we have to do. If only in Delhi, look at this room, 500 people committed, knowing the vision, knowing what they have to do, and they do the job, you change the public opinion around you. Don't wait for the media to do things. Do the job. You are the active media with it. Active media means active mediator between your perception and reality. I'm here to change. I'm here, but you have to talk. But you have to be dealing with this, as I was saying. So, for example, the great majority of the lobbies that are also promoting Islamophobia, look at the guy, you know the guy who was Abishlim, who is, it's not Abishlim, it's the David, his name will come back to me. He's behind this Sharia ban in the United States, in 26 states now. This guy is completely pro-Zionist, but he wants to make Sharia a dirty word and say we have to ban Sharia in our constitution. And people say, but there are no Muslims in this state. We don't care. Even if we fail, we win. Why? Because if you promote the discussion and you make Sharia a dirty word, you change the perception of the people. Even if you lose the case, you won. You are winning the minds, the perception. So these are things also that are explained why and how people are playing with this. Now, as I was saying, we have to call for peace with all this, understanding this. We have to call for peace with its condition. So, why do we have to stand on this? First, please, stop this very, very simplistic perception of reality, thinking that the democratic process is only something which has to do with politics. Your very simplistic understanding of what we call the Arab Spring. The Arab Spring, the people were sincere. They went, and they were really for justice and principle, and they were sincere. The people who were behind and pushed were less sincere and not really for democracy. They don't care about democracy. If they were caring about democracy, they would have started with Saudi Arabia, isn't it? But we don't want democracy in Saudi Arabia. We don't want democracy in the Gulf states. Why? Because what they are doing with oil and gas is exactly what we want. They sell it cheap and they control their people. That's enough. Women's rights, human rights, we don't care. Do whatever you want. And be happy with bin Salman. That young guy just going to say, yeah, I'm freeing Saudi Arabia, women can drive. And he can drink. That's the reality of it. So the point here is, it's not about democracy. It's not.
And from the very beginning in 2011, I was very much criticized when I wrote the book, The Arab Awakening, saying this is not an Arab Spring. The question is not political, the question is economic change in the region to control Chinese presence, Indian presence, and to come back with more security by completely distorting the reality and the political reality and destroying the balance in the Middle East. By having something with the State Department, no. The State Department knows how to deal with it. They call it low-intensity conflict. You know what is a low-intensity conflict? Is the people are killing one another and we sell weapons to both. Okay, we make money and they spread blood. Bloodshed. That's the reality of it. But it's not. If only we were to study what happened in South American countries, in Nicaragua, in Chile. They did it before. It's not new. Even in Europe, Milosevic and all this, campaign, this peaceful revolution. Who was paying for that? Who was paying for that? Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs, the most corrupt agency dealing with the global economy. And we look at, oh, this is about democracy. Do you really? Do you think that Goldman Sachs cares about your democratic process? They care about your market and the market itself. So the problem that we have in our understanding of when we are dealing and we want peace, we have to put priority. The first is, what is our take on the global economic order? Do you have a stand on this? So it's good. The Muslims are always saying we are against speculation and against interest. Thank you. Okay, what else? Do we have an alternative system? Today, we are waiting for some alternative system. Islam is not a neoliberal regulated system as we have it in Islamic finance and Islamic economy. I'm sorry to tell you, all this is rubbish. All this is rubbish. Islamic finance and Islamic economy is to Islamize the means and to keep the goals. What we want is to make as much money as they make, but halal money. We want to halalize the way of making money. But get this, so the point here for us is to have a critical take on the global economy. And especially you coming from the South, the global South is very powerful. If only we understand that our power should come from our creativity in the economic system. In the economic system, it's essential here. So, by saying this, also when it comes to the global economic order, there is also something which is important. When we talk about migrants, and why the people are leaving one country and go to another, there is something that we have to refuse to say and accept.
So the point here for us is to have a critical take on the global economy. And especially you coming from the South, the global South, is very powerful. If only we understand that our power should come from our creativity in the economic system. In the economic system, it's essential here. So, by saying this, also when it comes to the global economic order, there is also something which is important. When we talk about migrants, and why the people are leaving one country and go to another, there is something that we have to refuse to say and accept in the way we deal. We should never accept to criminalize the migrants, as it is done now in the West. What is producing migration is the unjust global system. Is not to criminalize the people at the border of the United States of America or Europe by criminalizing them and saying they are trying to come and they are clandestine, underground people, by criminalizing them. If you are agent of peace, you have to go to the reason, say the order is wrong and they are dignified people. I salute the dignity of people leaving their country because they want to survive this disaster. So we should not accept this.
It doesn't mean that we have to promote it. We want more justice here, but we should not accept the narrative of making the people who are leaving criminals and having less value when they end up dying in the Mediterranean Sea or wherever in the world. So this is also important, and I would say that our take as agents of peace is, as I said, to come to the reason. So economic reason, political reason is we have to struggle for more democratic rights and more freedom in our society. So this is something that we have to do here, and we have to do it, as I said, with the countries that are supporting dictators. This critical discourse is something which is important. So it has to do with economy, it has to do with migration, it has to do with politics. It also has to do, when it comes to something which is a structural racism, international racism, and you have to be clear on this. We need to have more voices being able to say, look, how come when Westerners are dying, it's as if the world is shaken, and when we are dying, it's as if we have less value. This is a structural international racism. That when, for example, we have terrorist attacks in Muslim majority countries or in Syria every day, and when it comes to Paris or to London, you have to be Charlie, or you have to be Paris, or you have to be London. But you are not going to say, I'm Beirut, or I'm Damascus, or I'm Baghdad. This is where we need also to say, and this is what I said in Europe, I'm going to say, I'm Paris, if you say with me, I am Beirut, I'm Damascus, I'm Baghdad, and equality when it comes to the way we deal with terrorism, it's also part of us being agent of peace, and to say that we value humanity the same. Let me tell you something about this before coming to my conclusion, because I think it's important. For years, as a European or Western Muslim, I was saying to Muslims, you have to be citizen. You have to feel that you belong to the society. This is your country, in Britain or in France or wherever you are in the United States of America. And I realized that it was positive because it helped Muslims to feel at home, and there was one thing which was negative. One thing which was negative is, at the end, what I saw with Muslims, that they were so much involved in being citizens, that being citizens was at the price of being a human being. So I want so much to show you that I am British, that I am French, that I am German, but at the end I forget that I am a human being. So I'm going to take the same stand when it comes to migrants. What are they doing here? And I'm going to keep silent about migrants, or about unemployment, about new slavery. And this is a problem. If your citizenship is at the price of your humanity, you have to check it. You have to reassess. No citizenship at the price of our human brotherhood and humanity, and we have to start doing this for our people coming from India and all the people around the world. That's also something which is essential in the way we have to deal. Last point, when it comes to the world today, and when we speak about terrorism, when we speak about radicalization, it's okay. Having said all this, agents of peace, we try and we are critical, as I said, clear, balanced, principled, and courageous. Now, what is our contribution? What is our contribution? And here, you need to get something which is important. The dominant culture today, it's a dominant culture based on fashion and entertainment. Okay? Fashion and entertainment. Entertainment is, you like it, do it. And pay for it. You have to pay. So this is the consumer culture. It's based on this. Ask yourself, is this going to change from the center, United States of America, in Europe, or should it be challenged from the periphery by saying this dominant culture is not us? the problem that we have coming from the South, from the Hindu, or the Buddhist, or the Muslims, or the Christians, even from the Confucianists in China, is that we have changed and westernized our own culture to make it fit to the dominant culture. So we end up having people in China, in the name of Confucianism, doing it or transforming it or translating it in something which is matching the consumer culture or the capitalist culture. And we as Muslims are doing exactly the same. In economy, we want as much money as they are, but in the halal way. We don't ask the question of, is the goal to get the money or is it to be just and dignified? No. Get the same money and just make it halal. So we halalize the means to get something which is wrong. The mindset is wrong. It's a consumer society. It's a culture of entertainment that we try to make it Islamic. It's exactly the same with culture. It's exactly the same with our songs. We want Islamic song doing exactly the same as the Western songs are doing. So you had Hollywood, make it halal Bollywood. Okay? And that's it. So it's coming from Turkey, it's Islamic, and we have putting, that's not the way it could be. So the problem is that our contribution here has to start with something which is essential. You are not going to resist the consumer society and the dominant culture, and you are not going to face the populists if you use the same means. If you are emotional in politics and consumerist in your way you deal with culture, it's not resistance. This is just your idea. What is important is your spiritual and intellectual too, in everything. The spiritual and intellectual too. The spiritual means that what is important is the main question. At the end of the day, what is the goal of your life? What is the very purpose of your life? What is to be dignified? If you believe in God, if you say La ilaha illallah, what is your spiritual take in life? Is it to have more, to get more money, to get position, or is it to come close to Him and to change yourself? Is it about reforming yourself, or is it about getting more? Are you agents of peace, understanding that the first liberation, by the way, my next book is called A Manifesto for a Liberation, an Islamic Liberation Theology. Because everything in Islam has to do with liberation. Liberate yourself from this consumer culture. Liberate yourself from trying to do as they do, only with your means that are halal, but the goals are not. You need to question the goals. And the first question when you question the goals is question your intention. And you know this, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Your behavior has to do with your intention. What do you want? What is the final purpose of your life? To get more, to entertain yourself, or to be dignified, agent for justice, courageous, clear, knowing what you want to do. Knowing that first, if you want to change the world, change yourself. That's the first liberation. If you want to change the world, change yourself means liberate yourself from your ego, from your emotions that could be destructive, from what is not helping you to be an independent human being. If you are not controlling your emotions, some people will control your emotions and control you. If you are not controlling your emotions, they know how they control your emotion. So, امسك عليك لسانك. You have to master your tongue. You have to master your desires. So this is something which is essential in everything that we need to have. So this spiritual take is the first liberation. No way you are going to be agents of peace if you don't make peace with your heart and peace with your being inside. That's the starting point. And when I speak like this, I can speak to Muslims, but anyone, a Buddhist, a Hindu, a Christian, they all agree on that. They all know that this is the case, that this is the situation. You are under control because you are not mastering yourself. If you don't control yourself, you let people control you. So that's essential. When I was coming from, sometimes it's good when I was coming from Agra right now, it's written, help us to help you. Wow. Okay, what do you want exactly? How am I going to help you to help me? Okay, so pay, entertain, what is it that you want? What do you want? Which type of help would I expect? So the first is to help yourself. Do what you have to do, and this is the spiritual dimension which is important, knowing at the same time that what is important at the end of the day. You, as human beings, are you supporting social justice or environmental struggles? Are you just supporting this just for the sake of social justice? There is something that we have to understand. If we, as human beings, unbelievers, and once again, it could come from Muslims and people of other faiths, because we have common principles here. Understand one thing. The people in Baghdad and in Syria, they are distorting the very notion of khilafah. They are distorting the notion of we are khulafa fil ard. Khulafa fil ard means something very simple. This earth and this world does not belong to you. This belongs to God. What you have to do is to protect it, respect it, and to make it a better place. That's what you have to do. So first you have to change yourself, and second you have to change the world for the better. With your principles, with your presence, wherever you are. So when you are promoting social justice, you understand that in Islam, in the name of the khilafah, the right khilafah, not the politicized khilafah, but the philosophical khilafah on earth, what you have to do is wherever you are, you change things for the better. So you are for social justice because in the Islamic understanding, you always start with your duties. You don't sit down and say, what are my rights? No. First your duties, and then we will see with your rights. But your duties, first is what you have to do on earth is to change this society. So you have to promote social justice. You have to promote equality. You have to promote equality, and you have to really be serious, for example, about things that, the people are saying, oh, you are conservative because you are promoting family. Yes, we want the family. It's very important to be a reformist within the family, to give the rights for our husbands, our wives, our children. That's very important. We need to have this in our society. It's important to come with this. And it means also you are serious about social justice. What about women in the society? I come in India and I still see that in some mosques, the men could pray, not the women. I'm sorry. Where have you seen this in our history? When the Prophet ﷺ was welcoming his own daughter in the mosque, and she was speaking in the mosque, and he said to all the people, have you heard what she said? And you come in 2017, 18, and you have Muslims saying, no, you men, you go to pray, and women will see. So since when women should not pray? Since when the mosques are male spaces? So you want to change the world? Look at what you are doing within your community. If this community is not respecting women's rights, and women's rights means that they have to be involved. I repeat always this verse, you have to keep it in your mind. المؤمنين والمؤمنات بعضهم أولياء بعض يأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر ويقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة. The believers, men and women, are allies. They come together. They promote what is right. They resist what is bad. They pray and they give zakah. This verse is telling us that we have to come together on social actions. We command the right and resist the bad. Once again, where are we? So when the people are telling you, you Muslims, you have a problem with women, Islamophobe. You don't like Muslims, you don't like Islam. So I'm a Muslim, alhamdulillah. Except if you think that I am kafir mu'tad. I'm a Muslim. And I'm looking at you, my brothers and sisters in India. The great majority of you have a problem with women. Get me right. Now you can say I'm Islamophobe. I'm a Muslim Islamophile. And I'm telling you something. Islam has, and the problem is, it starts with our mosques. It starts with our habit. I'm following from far the discussion about talaq, talaq, talaq. A long way to go. A long way to go. A long way to go. Really. So we have to be serious about social justice. And you know, don't try to respond to the West by saying we don't have a problem with women. We are not doing it to please the West. We are doing it to please God. I'm sorry, Allah is not happy with the way the Muslims are dealing with this issue. He is not happy with us. He is not. And the future is for us to come together, men and women, in the name of our principles. And then, this is also what we have to do, and we have to be involved in social justice. In this country, like in any other country, when a woman and a man come to the same job with the same skills, they have to have the same salary. Period. This is something which is the essential struggle that we need to have, and I will say that this is also vice-gerents, that we understand that we have to promote what is good, right, and the liberation process. It has to do with spirituality, it has to do with economy, it also has to do with something which is, tell me something. You are Indian people, Indian Muslims, or Indian whatever tradition you are following. What is your cultural contribution to the world today? What are we promoting as an alternative culture to the dominant culture? Pushing us to forget ourselves, to dance, to drink, to watch movies without any goal, just to waste our time. Do we have an alternative culture? Where are the Muslims? Where are the Indian Muslims, men and women? Where are the Indians from any traditions that are promoting something which could be another way of dealing with art, another way of dealing with imagination? Imagination is essential. Music is the international language of the youth today. Are you promoting something except Islamic songs? Is Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar? Are we promoting something which is attractive, an alternative culture? So you in the South, in India, this is your role. This is where we are not expecting all of you to be ulama, but we are expecting you to be dignified Muslims, dignified citizens. We come and we are agents of peace. Culture has to do with peace. Economy has to do with peace. Politics has to do with peace. Gender has to do with peace. We don't want the women to be like men and the men like women. We want both to be together and to promote the future together. This is why we have to come together, and this is why you stop blaming the scholars and do your job. Do what you have to do. That's what is expected from young generation. So when I'm coming here and all the people who are with us for the 10 days in India are all young students, that's all fine. This is the new generation. But this is a commitment, this is a struggle, this is where we are expecting the young generation to be, not to be lazy, not to be victims of I don't know whom, and this is where you have to be. My conclusion, 3 points. So, our responsibility is to talk, and it's good to have, I'm coming to give you a lecture, you are 500 here, listening, that's fine, now it's time to talk. Now it's time to talk, not one, because I like this, I keep on repeating this as well, is that I have lots of Muslims, they come to me after the talk say, MashaAllah, good talk, we are behind you, thank you. So I pay the price and you clap. No, we need now a community. We need a community of citizens committed and doing the job, and our responsibility is to talk, our responsibility is to act. And you know what is the problem? What is the most important ethical mistake of the Muslims? Is the silence of the silent majority. It's a fault, it's a mistake. The silence of the silent majority, we should stop this. So you should stop being silent in the way you deal with this. In one book that I wrote almost 15 years ago, called What I Believe, I was referring to 7 C's that are needed. I just want to repeat them for you to think about them. What is needed now as our responsibility? The first, which is confidence. Trust who you are and what you believe in. Even though the world is telling you you are bad and it's negative, trust God, trust your faith, trust your principles, trust the word Tariq Ramadan, trust. It's self-confidence. It's important. The second is critical thinking. Critical thinking means be critical, ask questions. Don't be from the people who are imitating all the time. Come with critical thinking. Be critical towards your government, critical even towards your shuyukh by questioning, critical in a positive way, respectful way. To be critical is to ask questions. Critical mind is important. The third is communication. Talk. Talk with your fellow citizens. Talk with the people. And talk means also listen to what they have to say. Many Indian people who are not Muslims, who have questions and they can help you to be better Muslim if only you listen to them. Listen to them. Because some of them have the sense that sometimes you are arrogant. Don't say it's not true. Some of you are arrogant in the way they look at others. I'm a Muslim, alhamdulillah. And you are kafir. Kafir is an insult in the mouth of both, many of you. So that's also listen to the people. Communication is important. The fourth one has to do with creativity. Creativity, be creative by coming with new thoughts. Intellectual creativity, artistic creativity, cultural creativity. Creativity is part of what is important in what we need. The fifth one is contribution. What the added value of the Muslim presence, the added value of you as citizens. And there are 2 others. By the way, I have only 6, and once somebody in Oxford came to me and said, I want to add another C. And I added it. So the 6th one is about contestation. To contest. To be able to say no when things are wrong. With any authority. أفضل الجهاد كلمة حق أمام سلطان جائر. The best jihad is a word of truth in front of a despot. So you have to be courageous. It's 1 C. Contest. I'm loyal to my country, but I'm critically loyal. If you are right, I'm with you. If you are wrong, I'm against you. So that's also contestation is a mindset. It has to do with confidence, by the way. And the last one is compassion. A woman who is not a Muslim came to me after a lecture and said, you forgot compassion. Ar-Rahmah. You know what we need in this community? Among yourself is more compassion and rahmah. Ruhama baynahum. These are the Muslims. That learn to forgive yourself and to forgive your brothers and sisters. Learn to forgive. Inna Allah ya'muru bil 'adl wal ihsan. God commands justice and excellence. Excellence is what? You made a mistake, I'm able to forgive you. You are not perfect, I'm not perfect. And the more I look at myself, the more I understand that I have to forgive my brothers and sisters. We need less judges in this community. Forgiveness, understanding, grace, covering the mistakes of their brothers and sisters. That's also something which is part of our spiritual take when it comes to this. Because some of you, out of, when they come to the talk, say, yes, we have to be like this. And when they see somebody who sometimes he's less courageous than them, sometimes he has some problem or she has some problem, who are very judgmental. Stop being judgmental and help people to be empowered and to be better human beings. And the last thing that I wanted to say, some of our brothers around the world, they distorted the very meaning of jihad. Jihad, it's not only effort. Jihad is a double movement. It's resistance and reform. I resist what is bad and I reform for what is good. In fact, there is jihad against and jihad for. Try as citizens and as human beings to reconcile yourself with the not the way it was used by politicians or by some groups, but from the very essence of what I said. Mujahideen means that you have to